Welcome, Chef Rudolph, to Lishe. Of course, Lishe, our focus is always on nutrition and fitness and thereof. And we're so honored that you could welcome us into your academy. Thank you so much for making time for us. Just to start us off, Chef, just tell us a bit about CTIA. For everyone else who doesn't know, that abbreviation is the Chef's Training and Innovation Academy. Tell us a bit about the institution and really what your ethos is around learning and teaching in the academy.
Okay, so CTIA we started in 2009, and we started as a bit of an offshoot of another school because we wanted to apply different methodologies and do things a little bit differently. At the core of it, what we try to do is to create industry-ready professionals. So what we teach them here must align with what the industry is teaching them.
Fantastic.
So that is our focus.
Yeah.
When they walk out of here, they should be industry ready. One of my biggest personal focuses is soft skills.
Yes.
Teaching them how to make a CV, how to go for an interview, these sort of things. This is what students lack nowadays.
Yes.
You can teach them the hard skills as much as possible,
Yeah.
but if you don't teach them soft skills, they will not succeed.
Goodness.
So we offer international diplomas from certain guilds, and anywhere 6 months to 2 years. We're also starting to offer the South African occupational chef qualification, which is now trade.
Yes.
And because the whole chefing industry is moving towards artisans and tradesmen.
Yes.
We actually involved in the development of the occupational chef qualification.
Fantastic.
Because they actually took a very good step involving all the schools to see, well, if you guys want to have an opinion, then you're going to have to give your opinion and work.
Yes.
So there's certain deadlines that we need to reach now with contributing all things here, which you can't always just complain. Sometimes you also need to do the work, and
Exactly.
that's what it boils down to.
Fantastic. Now, Chef, looking at basically your academy, what do you think your philosophy is around food and especially innovation? Like the name says, what is your philosophy around that, and what do you sort of preach to the students?
There's a lot of, when you look at cooking, there's a lot of things that we do, and we do them for tradition.
Yes.
And we don't do them because there's necessarily logical reasons. We simply do them because I remember when, and they still teach this
Yes.
some places, that you cook vegetables to death, where to retain nutrients you want to cook them as little as possible.
Exactly.
And that sort of thing. So we try,
history.
exactly, the history. We try to align ourselves with what is current, what is
Yes.
up to date, what are people doing right now, not 200 years ago. We appreciate what they did 200 years
Of
ago, and we'll
course.
teach that, but we're saying, well, this is the way they used to do it, but here's some new modern ways,
Exactly.
new modern cooking methods, or
Yes.
new ways of putting dishes together and preparing things, because healthy foods, it's a big industry,
Yes.
and it's continuously growing.
Exactly. And that's really, and what do you think students take away from it, especially when thinking about evolving with the times?
What they take away, good question, what I want them to take away is that there's a common belief, and it's especially almost a South African belief, and this is just my own observation, that a meal's never complete without a massive portion of meat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
me personally at home, I follow a vegetarian diet
Yes.
most of the time. For work, obviously don't. Obviously I don't, because I need to taste all these different
Yes.
things. But how to create food when you take out the meat component, how to make it healthy and make it
Yeah.
taste good. And there's always this connection between, if it's healthy, it's not going to taste good.
Yeah. It's true.
And I almost want to dispel those myths
Mhm.
with cooking, and that's for me is a big thing,
Yes.
because it's complete rubbish.
Exactly. And especially with the academy being in a country, in Africa as a whole, our eating patterns have changed, and I think there's a need to sort of tweak those and tweak the mindset, like you're saying, the fact that there should be a big piece of meat on the plate with everything else, but there's definitely a need to change that, because we are growing. We have currently a crisis of non-communicable diseases, like hypertension and diabetes and all that. So definitely important.
We actually took part in a competition. It was the Soweto Slow Food competition. That's Braeside Meat Market. I don't know if you're aware of them. They do, how could I put it, hormone-free, ethically raised cattle, which it's a bit more expensive, but the quality is definitely worth it. I went to 40 restaurants at the new Sun, and they only use Braeside meat, which is it's a big step for places, and a lot of places are taking these steps. But what was nice about the slow food competition is that we had to create a meal that has the correct requirements according to the South African health guidelines, and the one for the World Food Organization. And for a teenager, for a lunch box, Scaftini challenge is actually what it was called. And we had to have everything in. We had very specific guidelines and said, you only have 20 rand. So we had to put it together. So what ended up on the day, we went to, it was hosted in Soweto, and we took 50 of these lunch boxes and we sold them, and it's a whole, they were judged. We ended up placing third, Relief was first, and Capital Hotel School came second. But that's the sort of initiatives, and we appreciate that sort of initiatives that people are taking these steps, because it creates awareness around it. Because you can't have somebody's 90% of their calorie intake be based off GMO maize. It just doesn't, it's never going to work.
At all. That is so fascinating. And I mean, that's literally how people are now functioning. People are at a place where they've realized this big scare, and people are really trying to move towards living healthy and eating healthier. And I think, especially starting with children, like you're saying, this Scaftini challenge is definitely well poised, because when you're, I think as single moms or moms out there, they definitely trying to figure out how to best make sure that their kids eat the right thing. And I think when you start healthy habits, starting with kids is the best way.
Yeah. It's those trends that are set during your childhood guides you for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
And that's the sort of thing that brings you comfort. It makes you settle in. Once you've had it, you feel you've had your meal for the day.
Certainly. Now, Chef Rudolph, there's always a myth that when you're cooking, especially as chefs, that the food just needs to be delicious, that we're never thinking about healthy eating. And certainly when you watch all the chefs cooking on all those television shows, you see all those calories just extending further and further. What do you think about those myths?
That it must taste delicious.
It just must taste delicious and nothing else.
Well, when you're going, for me, okay, let's take it this way. If you're going to eat out once a week, that is going to have to be delicious. That is going to have to be absolutely be the best meal in the world, because
it's cheat day.
It is cheat day. So, but on the other side, you have people that certain professions, you eat out every single day of your life, because if you're a lawyer, you need to have a meeting, and the right place to have a meeting is in a restaurant. So, I think, yes, they must make it delicious. Yes, they must please not add truckloads of butter to everything, and but on the other side, there must be the option that if you don't want those things, that it must still taste good, and it must
still be nutritious.
And still be nutritious, and that's what it's boiled down to. Like, some people ask me, like, how do you eat at a restaurant without? I say to them, order a steak or whatever, tell them to dry grill it, don't put anything on it, and order a double portion of the vegetables instead of having, because you'll be fine.
Exactly.
You'll still eat with everyone there.
You can still have a tasty steak.
It will still be a tasty steak, and the whole thing is though that you're still going to meet your calorie requirements, and it will be fine. So again, restaurants, remember, our motivation is to make it delicious. You do get certain, there's a restaurant, Leafy Greens, they're 100% vegan. Absolutely awesome. I love going there, because they just create delicious vegan food.
That's amazing. Which is something people always think is so out of just the mind.
I've got this thing where if I invite people over for dinner, I cook vegetarian. And I always want to see if, are they going to comment? Are they going to say something about it? Because if you can cook it to the point where they don't miss the meat, then you're definitely doing something right.
Certainly. They definitely are a well-trained chef. Now, Chef Rudolph, thinking about where food trends are today, what do you think these are some of the food trends are that you try to sort of make sure the academy looks into and sort of tries to, you know, sort of learn according to those? And what do you think is the biggest food trend presently?
Well, we've moved past that whole phase of molecular gastronomy where everyone got confused. And we tried to make things look like plastic and it was all fake. At the moment, people are doing a lot of gels, a lot of components, a lot of colours. And they love having colours and gels and these sorts of things put out. But it's become almost a mastery to make a perfect puree, a perfect gel, and how to put it together and how it should look and how it should be put together.
Yes.
Part of the education here for the students is placing them at these top restaurants all over South Africa.
Yes.
And going to Cape Town, because 9 out of the 10 top 10 restaurants is in Cape Town.
Wow.
We only have one up here.
Yes.
And this is where we actually introduce the students to these trends and what's happening in the industry right now.
Fantastic. Now, Chef, well, somebody who's looking at getting into the culinary arts, what do you think is the one thing that can attract them to your academy? And what do you think is the one thing that sets the CTIA apart from all the others?
Well, what absolutely sets us apart from the other academies is that we do industry preparation. We're also very focused on our clients and their success. It's a people interaction when we want them to succeed.
Fantastic.
We try and I sometimes think to myself, should we, because the amount of effort we put into placing a student, we've got one student now going to Foxcroft in Cape Town, which is, I think they were the top new restaurant in South Africa last year. And, well, I've already had 3 of my students work there. With my past students. So the thing is, it's the effort to make sure that accommodation, relocation, because they're basically going there for 6 months.
Wow.
I've got 3 students that I placed at the one and only at Rubens, and they're also permanently employed. So it's that sort of reward at the end of the day when you place them at these top places and they accept our product. They are happy with what we put out, with what we've taught them. Yeah,
that's really amazing.
That for us shows that we're doing what we need to do.
Exactly. Now, Chef Rudolph, today with Lishe being here, we're going through your healthy diet assessment, which is what the students are doing today, and part of it is obviously making sure that they prepare a meal that meets the sort of dietary requirements. What can we look forward to just the whole session?
So what the students need to do to then, just to give you a bit of background where this comes from.
Yes.
So the students need to prepare a healthy dish. They need to plan it from scratch, so they need to go and figure out the ideas under guidance, but they need to go and figure out whatever they want to do. Then they need to let us know what ingredients they want, because part of being a chef is procurement. You need to let us know, hey, I'm going to need this here, so you can look at exactly. And after the procurement, then they have to cook it. Now how can I put it, the star of the show today is a sole. So they're going to take a sole and take off the fillets. And then they need to prepare them in a healthy fashion.
Fantastic. We're definitely looking forward to that. And we're so glad that you're also going to provide us with some of the recipes so that our readers can prepare them at home. Now, Chef Rudolph, for people wanting to learn more about the academy, where do they go?
The absolute best place to go is our website, which is www.ctia.co.za, and on there you'll find our prospectus, all the courses we offer. You can also visit any of our branches, either based in Centurion or Durban or Cape Town.
Fantastic. Chef, thank you so much for talking to us. And of course, you'll be able to catch the interview on www.lishe.co.za.